Man, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into the new album, Some Poor Soul Has a
Oh,
Fire, and your life and music, which is so fascinating. So thank you for taking a minute out, man.
thank you for taking the time to speak to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just for context, I'm coming out of one of the jazz cradles here in Kansas City, Missouri. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, God, yeah. Jazz and barbecue.
Oh man, a plate of meat, you can't go wrong here with that. That's for sure.
Man,
So,
a friend of mine, like a million years ago, I had never eaten barbecue by this at this point that I'm telling you. And I was wondering what everybody was talking about. And we were playing in Kansas City or outside of Kansas City with Diana Ross.
yeah.
And he said, I want to take you to Gates. It's only 20 minutes away. Of
Huh?
course, it was a multiple of 20 minutes away, but it was so incredible. I had two entire dinners for lunch.
Wow.
And I've since ordered it by the case. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's the most incredible stuff.
Yeah, of all the things in Kansas City, Gates is the one place, man, that will change your life. That's for
It
sure.
changed mine. And I've also grown to like Arthur Bryant's. Is that still
Yeah.
around?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Bryant's. That's the one where all the presidents and the upper brass go to. So yeah, it's very famous.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I love them both. And of course, Kansas City Jazz is so it's a great place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's still firing on all cylinders. So, well, man, I want to get into the new album. Talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about actually before we get into the album, I kind of want to cover a little bit. I know we're getting tired of talking about COVID, but the pandemic was a big shapeshifter for a lot of people,
Right,
especially
right,
musicians. How did you
right.
get through that time period, and how did it influence this album possibly?
Okay, well, first of all, I recognize the fact that it was horrible. I know people who suffered tremendously. I know a couple of people who didn't survive the pandemic. So I'm aware of how bad it was. Uh, Academically, for students, I have two daughters. I know how horrible it was. I was very fortunate in that I was able to make the best of that time in relative seclusion. I
Yep.
mean, first of all, because my daughters didn't have school, we also have a place upstate. And my wife and two daughters and we were together for an extended period of time during a part of their school lives that I never expected that to be the case. So it was a very, very unifying family experience, which I will always cherish. Once again, understanding the big picture was one of suffering for a lot of people. Um, Upstate, I have a little cottage, which I've converted into a like my own personal workspace. And I worked all the time. I worked all the time. I don't know if I wrote to you or you had any way of knowing of this project of mine called 20 Seconds of Something.
Yeah.
But I started this, and I'll send you I believe I have your personal email
Yeah.
address. If you're interested, I'll send you a link to this.
Yeah.
And this project is basically it consists of 10 very short pieces. And I contacted drummers, a variety of drummers, like Dave King from the Bad Plus, a bunch of drummers and a lot of other really great musicians. And I sent drummers like road maps. Like here's a basic tempo. Here are some time changes within this set time. Style is your choice. I'd like you to play something according to this grid that I'm giving you. Improvise something on top of that, and then I'm going to extract the rhythms or the things that pop out as a result of the two things combining. And so I made these extractions, and I wrote pieces on top of that. Some of it I played a lot on it. Other times I added other musicians, and they were all short. Some of them were the longest might have been a minute, but some of them were actually around 20 seconds. And I made them short because I figured nobody wants to listen to long pieces of mine. And then I decided to add videos just in case people got bored listening to the music. They'd have something to watch while the music was going by. And so I made these pieces, and they were fairly well received by the few people who managed to see them. And some of those pieces, at least two of them, are at the root of some of this new record. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the connection. But that wasn't the main impetus for this project. Um, I could talk forever, so you have to stop me and ask me stuff.
Yeah, yeah, no, 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 no. So I'm curious, let me ask you this. What are you
Yeah.
ultimately hoping the listener gets from this album? What's kind of your hope?
Okay, well, first of all, you've seen my resume is heavily like rock and roll and
Yeah,
R&B, and my interests have been like very, very varied for most of my life, certainly since high school on. I mean, my first love, well, I took guitar lessons. I fell in love with the Beatles like a million other people did.
yeah,
But when I was in junior high school, in fact, and I was turned on to and I started playing saxophone and was turned on to like Cannonball and Coltrane and Charlie Parker and Dexter Gordon and all these people. I mean, that's when like my interest in jazz, and I used to play it all the time, was really like elevated to like above everything else.
yeah,
And then got heavily involved with the, I don't know if you want to call it the classical music world, the modern composition world, and I was listening to that like forever and studying theory and composition in college. So the stuff that interests me is much more than the stuff that my resume would make you think that I'm interested in.
yeah,
And so if somebody was going to get something from this record, the main thing that I'd really hope they'd get, because it's what I was hoping to get across, was I wrote and performed this music and hired people to play it in order to express something within, as opposed to try to get somebody to like it.
right.
You know, it had to please me. It had to feel meaningful to me. So I hope that that comes across. There was no catering to certain tastes. There was no attempt to find a broad audience. It was like, this is what I'm hearing right now, and this is what I want to do. So
Yeah.
I would like that to come across. And and relating to what I was saying before, I'd like people to know that there's a world that I have going on inside of me that is broader than the one that they might think exists. And why? Because I'd like to be involved with more and more players who do other things, which does happen, and which is really, really great. That might be a very tangential way of
No,
answering your question, but
yeah, no, I think you did a wonderful yeah, you totally, it's exactly what I was looking for. I'm
okay.
curious, you've had all of these legends that you've been around, from Bowie to Radiohead, Van Zandt. I mean, the list goes on and on. How did all that happen? How did you become the go-to horn for these cats?
Well, you have a minute?
Yeah, I certainly do.
Well, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think that a lot of people would probably tell you that, well, first of all, you have to be able to do it when you're called. You have to be able to do what they're looking for.
Yeah,
But being called in the first place is often a matter of just good fortune.
yeah,
Okay, so I recognize that as well. There's a certain amount of luck involved.
yeah,
And in terms of, let's start with the Steve Van Zandt slash Southside Johnny connection.
yeah.
I got a call when soon after I got out of college. I don't want to mention names because I don't know if people want to have their names mentioned,
Sure.
but
Yeah,
okay. So I got a call from a friend of mine saying, I was just called up by some friends of mine to audition for Southside Johnny, and I don't want to go on the road now. Do you want to do it? Now, this was a good friend of mine who we used to play together all. I went to Rutgers in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
okay.
And I have a degree in sociology, but I took more courses than a music major needed to take, even advanced theory and composition on the grad school level. But my friend was living in the area, so we played in a lot of things together. And I just happened to be lucky. You'd think, well, you have to go to a some type of major like music school or be in some major city. I was in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and this is all a result of getting a sociology degree from a place in New Jersey that led to that connection. Okay, so that led to the entire um, South Side, Miami, Steve Van Zandt, Bruce Springsteen, all that stuff came from there. Okay, and that also led to Serge Gainsbourg. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but that was a remarkable part of my life working
Yeah.
with him. The Bowie thing was probably even more bizarre. Okay, I worked with Diana Ross for a while, and the Chic's drummer was going out with a violinist in the band at the time. Okay,
Yeah.
Chic's drummer Tony Thompson, who is unfortunately no longer with us. I loved him. He was a great guy, and he had once asked me if I wanted to go out on the road with Chic, and I had to turn them down because I had other plans. Now, I don't think there was any connection, but my girlfriend at the time had a good friend who was friends with Nile Rodgers' family.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend, who was very like, I've developed this to the greatest degree. If you don't ask, you don't have any chance. I'd rather be rejected than just like completely not even listen to or given the opportunity.
Yeah.
So she calls this friend of hers and says, will you call Niall and ask him if he needs a sax player for something? Now, the chances of that leading to any kind of results, it's less than zero. I mean, like that stuff never works,
Right.
ever,
Yeah.
except this time it did. And I came one day and she said to me, I think I've gotten you a great gig. And the next thing I know, the phone rings and it's Niall's office asking me if I'm free to do a session the next day or the day after. And it happened to be for the Let's Dance record.
Wow.
That's how that all happened.
Wow.
And it's just really, really bizarre.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it led me to the point where if I go into a building and I see somebody listed on like a commercial building and I see somebody listed there who I think might I mean I'm good I make lots of cold calls because once again I've had so much good luck in my life that
Sure.
I really really believe that once in a while it does pay off.
Yeah. It
So
certainly
I'm not,
does.
I'm not afraid to ask people or contact people. I
I
don't like to
totally.
get, I was going to say I don't like to ask for favors, but I'm
Right.
not afraid to approach people and say hello. And
I dig exactly what you're saying. So let me ask you this. In the realm of jazz, what was the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away?
oh God, the first live jazz show that I saw, oh man, that's a rough one. I remember seeing Zoot Sims when I was
Wow.
really young
Yeah.
and being blown away by his playing.
Yeah.
You know, back then. And my father took me and a few friends of mine to the last Newport Jazz Festival in Newport at a certain time. Had moved out of Newport for a
Yeah.
while, and I went to the last one at that time.
Yeah.
And on this one bill, I saw Ella Fitzgerald, Eddie Harris,
Wow.
Les McCann, Cannonball Adderley, Pharaoh Sanders, Leon Thomas. I mean, it was an unbelievable night of I think Pharaoh was on there, but everybody else was on there. It
Yeah.
was incredible. So I mean that sticks in my mind as one of the earliest and best.
Yeah. What has been the what has been the ingredient for you for your longevity? You've been around for a long time. You've done so many varied projects. You've traveled, you've continued to evolve. What is that motivation every day to wake up and to do this, live this life that you've lived?
Okay, I don't mean to be glib when I say this, okay,
Yeah.
because well, first of all, I'm really passionate about the subject matter, okay,
Yeah.
about music. And I'm passionate, I'm extremely curious. I've been that way since I was a kid. And the part that I don't mean to sound glib when I say it, I'm aware of like how much I suck. You know, I'm aware of how much I don't know, how much I can't do, and how much there is to learn how to do. And the more I write music, the more I'm aware of more stuff that is there to come out in different musical areas. And so I'm constantly like I'm like a little kid. You know, every day has the potential for me to learn something or do something different, and it's extremely exciting. It's like I can't imagine a more interesting way of living. So it's my motivation is to improve, to learn more about myself and I guess the world that I'm in. I guess one could say this is veering into the cliched sort of response, but it's really approaching everything like a kid and really being fascinated and inspired by so many things that have been going on that continue to go on.
So of all of the musicians that you mentioned Donna Summer and you got Bowie and
Diana Ross.
Diana Ross. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, yeah.
I got stuck. I'm listening to a podcast with Moby and he just totally freaked out about her and it got stuck in my brain. So I
It's okay.
apologize.
Am I allowed to drink coffee on screen
Oh,
here?
you can do whatever you want to do, my man. Yeah, you're good.
I'd like to have called in a hairdresser. That was one of my biggest mistakes here.
No, 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 you're good, man. It's good. It's it's totally good. So I'm curious of all of these musicians and these, I mean, they
Yeah.
might be giants. I mean, the list goes on and on, but what was the one where you think maybe you learned the most? Maybe you went in thinking one thing, it was different, and it really made you grow, or you just realized something about yourself as a musician and your playing.
Okay, that's a really, really good question. And I don't know that I can answer it in terms of some of these rock and roll things that I've done. Well, okay. I have the answer. Here's the one thing that I was involved with that probably led to the greatest growth or provided me with the opportunity for the greatest growth and it almost had nothing to do with the star. Okay. When when I toured with Bowie, the saxophone trio, there were three sax players, which we ended up basically touring as a saxophone trio, which was not a rock and roll gig at all. We played more avant-garde places, but it consisted of Steve Elson. I don't know if you know Steve Elson,
Yeah,
and I would imagine you know of Lenny Pickett.
yeah.
Okay, so here I am standing next to Lenny Pickett, and I'd known of him from Tower Power days. I had never met him. And here's a guy who's playing stuff that I didn't even know existed. It was like Donald Rumsfeld's Unknown Unknowns, you know? It was like, oh, you're doing something that I not only can't do, but it's something I never thought of doing. I don't even know what it is that you're doing. And so I had a chance at that point to crawl under a rug to say I give up. This is just like too remarkable, or to be as inspired as one can and should be standing next to somebody who is that phenomenal. And that's the route that I chose.
Yeah.
So for that entire rehearsal slash tour period, I was standing next to, he was right on my left, one of the greatest saxophone players in the world, who is also one of the most interesting composers. And that was a remarkable experience. You couldn't, I should have been paying David Bowie to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, that was just mind-boggling. We're friends to this day. So I mean, I think that that's probably in
Yeah.
terms of the other things that have led to that have been eye-opening, or my doing my own things, playing them. But that was a major component of my musical life.
So when you look at the arc of your career, what is it that you're the proudest of? That you've done or that you've lived through? What is that?
God, you've got to forgive me if I sound cliched here. I don't want to do that, and I don't want to sound like a proud. I try to, and this doesn't come from any religious sort of thing. I just try to tone down ideas like pride and all that other stuff. The thing that I'm happy about, that I consider myself to be fortunate enough about, is that I'm happy that my interest in growing has never stopped.
Yeah,
Okay, I feel lucky because it leads to a certain richness of life. If that were not the case, I probably wouldn't know what I was missing, but since I'm aware of it, I'm really happy about that. It also leads to a, I don't want to say fear, but a concern, an understanding that there will be time when that will stop. There,
yeah,
I'm hoping that I don't get to the point where my day consists of drooling and complaining.
yeah,
You know, I would like to think that I will be able to be in some way personally vibrant until until the end. But I'm just loving the fact that I'm really happy with what is going on in my head, and my passion for what I do.
yeah.
Am I answering these questions at
No,
all?
dude, Stan, you're nailing it. Yeah, this is exactly. Yeah, you're a pro. This is all flowing out. So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Okay, who do I think I am? I mean, that's a very, very broad question.
Right.
Um, and so I'm a nice guy. I like the color blue. I like
I
blue,
love
so
it.
I mean, I would like to think that I'm a okay. Like, if I'm going to summarize it, I like people to. I don't. Let's say what I consider myself might not be what people like see in me. Okay, but I like to consider myself to be a pretty straight ahead, non bullshit sort of person.
Yeah,
Okay, I don't like to kiss ass. Okay, and I'm really aware when I think of somebody trying to do that with me as well. I really like honesty. I don't like meanness. I don't see any reason to hurt people, but I don't like sugarcoat. I don't like bullshitting people.
yeah,
And I hope that people will say that I'm sincere and that I care about people. I like them to think that I'm a good husband and a good father. That's probably paramount. And I keep coming back to bullshit. I mean, like, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. If I catch somebody lying about something, it's like I have trouble trusting them in general.
yeah,
If I know that I play something that absolutely sucks, and somebody who I know is capable of telling me, of hearing that, they tell me that what they heard me do was fantastic, I pretty much put them on the list of people to not pay that much attention to in terms of what they have to say.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So once again, I feel like I'm answering these questions in a very circuitous manner, but
No, you're getting to the heart and soul of who you are, which is why I love these answers. This is very uniquely you, and it's a very unique perspective as far as I'm concerned.
okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, it's good. So let's go back. So in the beginning, we were talking about being on the road. Talk to me
Yeah.
about live shows. If anybody wants to catch you live, promotion for the album, how can they
Uh,
catch you?
I have all these gigs with They Might Be Giants coming up,
Okay.
and so the musicians that I recorded with, that I played with, we did some live gigs a summer and a half ago, and these guys are among my favorite musicians ever, and they're extremely busy, and I don't know how I could coordinate something with them. So I don't right now. I don't have any live gigs lined up for my own stuff.
Okay.
Um, I'm also aware of the fact that albums come and go. and there's so many of them coming out like every second of the day that, well, they're here today and they're dead tomorrow. And so whatever type of notoriety or that's not the right word, but whatever sense of awareness people might be getting of me, I would like to not let that die. So I think the only way to really do it for me now is to come out with another album.
Yeah.
And so that's on my mind. Not that I have any material. I have some material. It's not going to be like the one that you're hearing now. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure of that,
Yeah.
you know. And I almost forgot the question. Promoting myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right now. It's having the good fortune of speaking to you, this type of thing.
Yeah. So I got a quick story from my 20s when I was running around and we were all hair to the middle of our back with my pals, and there was friends of mine that were in bands, and I was in that environment. And I
Right.
remember at one point a friend of mine called me up just totally freaked out. Oh my God, they're going to be at William Jewell College, which was a little town outside of Kansas City, and
Hmm.
They Might Be Giants had a pop-up show, and he was totally freaked out. And we went,
Right.
and it was crazy. Like, these guys are nuts, like what they do. And there was a point where they would release a song every day at one point in
Right.
their,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So anyway, I had such a happy moment when you said They Might Be Giants, because we were so ecstatic to see these guys come to this little town in the middle of America.
Well, they're really incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been around for a while, and they do not. Their shows, they're not oldie shows. I mean, they have a lot
No.
of material to choose from, but I mean, they'll have another record out next year, I believe. I mean, and that playing with them, I've had some opportunities to play and write for them that I haven't had in other places. Like every other night, I get a short solo in the beginning of a song called Istanbul
Yeah.
that I can just take anywhere I want to go, and I'm encouraged to do so.
Yep.
It's really, really a blast for me.
Yeah.
And I've written arrangements for some other songs. The one that we're doing right now a lot is called The Darlings of Lumberland.
Yeah.
Okay, and John Flansburgh wrote the basis of the tune, the lyrics, but he contacted me and said, uh, the first part of it was, I want you to write a melody here, and I want it to be the most beautiful melody ever written. Like, talk about pressure, you
Yeah.
know. In any event, I wrote the horn stuff, and I recorded it. I think I might have put down about 40 different tracks. They were woodwinds from bass clarinet and Barry sax all the way up to, I don't know if I played piccolo on it. Anyway, there were lots of tracks, and I was given pretty much full freedom
Yeah.
to do what I wanted. So that was, I don't know why I neglected to say that. That kind of freedom was great.
Yeah.
If you've never heard it, you might get a kick out of it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to check it out for sure.
Yeah.
Man, this has been fascinating, Stan. Thank you. Where's the best place if people want to benefit you the most? Is Bandcamp the best place to pick up the album?
Yes, the record is put out on the label is called Adhya Ropa. Talk about having a word that's fun to spell.
Yeah.
Adhyaropa
Okay.
records on Bandcamp. And that's where they could find me.
Okay.
And of course you could find it on every free streaming site that everybody and their grandmother has.
Yeah.
But if somebody actually wants to support it, that would be really, really great.
Yeah. And I will
And,
put links in the show notes to it for sure. Perfect. Stan, this has been great, man. Stay cool, man. I appreciate it.
no, I loved it. Thanks a million.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.